We did it! Oh my God. I'm so excited. This is all happening on time. Welcome everybody to the Event Industry Facebook Live. Happy Friday. I am so excited to be joined today by Casey Fields, CEO of The Point, a fantastic event venue here in beautiful, sunny San Diego. Well, not so sunny today. We got May Gray already creeping in on us. But I've been doing these really fun chats with everybody on the weekly and bringing in different types of vendors and talking about, ways that they're reinventing what they're doing, how the pandemic has affected them, and, how they're moving forward and connecting with clients or connecting with other event professionals. So, Casey, I'll have you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your fantastic venue.
Thanks. I'm Casey Fields. Thanks for having me. I am the owner operator of The Point. My official title is Chief Experience Officer. That's because we really focus on experiential events. We are a waterfront venue in Mission Beach that has indoor-outdoor spaces, and we have a big focus on, because as I mentioned, experiences and sustainability.
Yeah, I've been to some events that you guys have hosted. I've tried to pitch clients on it because I feel like it's such a unique venue obviously I just do mostly corporate, but I know you guys have done tons of weddings, but maybe you can talk about like the various events you guys have hosted on all different fronts too, because I think you guys can serve like a myriad of clients out there.
Absolutely. So a big focus we have is corporate events. We are a plug and play solution for all corporate meetings, training, seminars. Mm-hmm. But then we also do a myriad of special occasions, weddings. The sitting right on the water is a huge value for us, mainly because, say for like a wedding, obviously we can do a waterfront ceremony and then come inside our indoor-outdoor space for a reception. For the corporate clients, it's great because we have a seamless transition from having a plug and play meeting to, going out and sailing on the bay and then coming back into our garden for like a happy hour.
Absolutely.
So it's really easy to design memorable experiences without having to work very hard, especially from the eye of like the corporate or from the planner side.
And you guys have some great technology like built in, which can really alleviate some of the bottom line expenses that can come up for a lot of corporate clients, especially with like when you're not dealing with large groups. Some of those things, like when you're priced out per person, can be, a deterrent. But I think with it all built in your facility and like you're saying, like plug and play, that's such a huge draw.
Absolutely. And so we pride ourselves on being not only, like I mentioned, sustainable, but a smart space. So we use all digital signage. We've got screens around the room. So you don't need to print anything. You don't need to put your schedules, anything like that. All goes up, your branding, everything gets digitally projected onto the screens. We also have Philips Hue smart lighting and Apple TVs for airplaying your presentations.
Awesome.
I think at the end of this pandemic and everybody comes back, we are very well positioned for any sort of like virtual attendance and being able to make people really feel connected to an event, whether they can actually physically attend or not. Yeah, that's just something that our roots are from a technology company, so we've always really tried to be the leaders. We call ourselves the future of meetings. Yeah, is our tagline, to be ahead of the curve in terms of any kind of technology needed, not necessarily like a smart screen, more like a smart way that can really easily integrate with what the technology people actually show up to meetings with.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I think you guys definitely are poised to accommodate a lot of needs that are maybe weren't at the forefront, but as we're seeing things develop now, even just in the last few weeks, virtual and technology are going to be so integral with any events that we do corporate. I mean, I've even seen it with some weddings. I've seen like virtual weddings happen online. So yeah, I think across the spectrum here.
Yeah, we're actually running a wedding elopement giveaway right now because we kind of just to get people I know people are itching to get married and they've been postponed, so we're trying to give back. We definitely are always try and be a company that does good and helps others when we can. It's a big beyond just environmental issues. So I think there's going to be a push for a lot of smaller events that maybe have a broader reach. So being prepared, we're already built and ready for that, which is great. I also having all of our boats and paddleboards and kayaks and everything right there and accessible for anybody to add on to either a special occasion or a corporate event is great, because you can do a lot of team building things and activities that still allows for a lot of distancing, but giving them that feeling of reconnecting with the world and nature.
I love that. You mentioned your wedding elopement giveaway. Maybe you want to speak to that. Like, how do people, maybe what the gist of the giveaway is, and how does one put themselves in for the winnings of this great package?
Sure. Basically what we're doing is, as soon as the governor allows for, small gatherings, I know they just today released that you can now video apply for marriage licenses. Okay. So people can get the licenses. So it's just a matter of like, if we're allowed to have a group of 10 people or family members together. Okay. We're giving away packages where they can come. There's going to be a ceremony like on the bay with an arch, sound system, chairs, an officiant. We provide them, or they can bring their own. And basically they can get married and then come inside for a modified reception. Okay. The concept being that we know people have life plans. They're trying to, start families. People are deploying. There's all kinds of things that are happening. People still need to get married. So it might be a great option to do that now and then maybe have a big party a year later. Yeah. And so instead of having to delay your plans, so we were just kind of, trying to think of what could we do to help people? How can we give back? Because our team is talking to people every day, and people are having, there's just all kinds of stories. It's a hard time for everybody. But that was what we came up with, as the thing that we could do the most immediately. So, and in terms of applying, you just, it's on our website and our blog. You just submit, it's a really basic form, and then we're just going to do a random drawing. Okay. So we'll link to the form. So if there's anybody out there that are planners, that have couples, because I know we were talking to a couple wedding planners a few weeks ago, and they're in this really tough spot, because as you were saying, like there's other, like, it's not like, oh, I can just, go wait until October or push it to next March or something like that. There's a lot of people that have like immediacy issues, like they want to have family, or maybe some people rush to have a wedding because someone's sick and, a loved one, maybe health has deteriorating or something like that. There's so many reasons why you just don't want to wait to like kind of, have that special day with your families, even if you can't have a bunch of them come there. And people are being financially impacted. And so doing it for free of cost is so that you can then save that money to actually have that big celebration later. Yeah. And they're not like additionally burdened outside of if they want to bring in some food, but they could just potluck it and bring their own stuff and their own booze as well. So it can be I was just going to ask about that. So food and beverage would be a secondary, so they can bring in their own for a potluck. Or do you guys have a preferred catering list, like a exclusive, or what's your food and beverage? We have an open vendor policy. Okay. We have people that we certainly can refer, and we can also coordinate it for them, especially for this promotion. Okay. But typically for our corporate clients, we plan all their meals, and we also, in addition to their activities, and then all their audiovisual needs. For the special occasions, typically we do the space, the furniture, and maybe some light decor, and then they coordinate most of their vendors. Okay. We can, but it's just we're more of a plug all around solution when it comes to the corporate side of things. Mm-hmm. Just because people who, when it's a special occasion, really they want a very particular thing. And for us, we want them to be able to have that. So instead of trying to say, hey, here's a couple options, we're like, do whatever makes you happy, follow your heart, make this the day that you remember forever. Yeah, you're like, if you want to go boho chic on here on the water, awesome, do it. Do it. We love it. Yeah, creativity is definitely something that we strongly encourage. Out of the box thinking, anything that you can do to create an experience that leaves an impression, that's a memorable event. If I ever host an event personally, like my goal is always that my guests show up and they're caught off guard with something that's amazing that was not even that hard for me to do.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, like when I got married, we picked everybody up. I got married at the point, and we picked everybody up on boats and took them out on boats.
Aww.
And and people were like, oh, cool. Okay. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different things. We do a lot of also like baby showers, first birthday party, just because it's a big open space. So I say on the weekends, it's a lot of those types of events. And then weekdays, it's more business. Company picnics are huge. We manage the Tower Beach Club, which is a space right next to us. And we have a large 2,500 square foot deck sitting right in the bay. So to have the ability to just be like out in the water, but also able to drink alcohol, access to the activities, it's just a real big win all around.
Especially since there's not gone are the days when you could actually drink on the beach. I mean, I've lived in San Diego now like 20 years, and like once upon a time, 4th of July was a crazy booze fest on the bay and the beach, and we just can't have nice things anymore. So that went away.
People cannot be trusted to follow the rules. Yeah. We learn every day right now.
And you get this from clients that are not too familiar with the regulations in San Diego and alcohol service. So there is the idea of like, oh my gosh, I want to have this party on the beach. And you have to kind of explain to them, I'm sure this is also for wedding planners as well, is that while that is a great fantasy in your mind, a lot of places that's not possible because of the regulations. So that's fantastic that there's like waterfront, and I think that there's so little opportunities for that in San Diego. So you should definitely be on everybody's radar because there's not a lot of places you can do that for sure.
Especially not with open vendor policies. Yeah. And that are updated and modern.
Right.
So we're a great workaround for a beautiful space while also being able to enjoy those luxuries of having drinks outside on the water.
You guys should be booked. Like, people should know who you are and be coming flocking to you.
Over here. We've been open for about 4 years, and people now, I think, we're on their radars, which is great. When we first started, nobody knew we existed, which was so we had to kind of get a name out there, and we've proven ourselves at this point. We've got major clients like Sony and Red Bull, and Coca-Cola, and Nike. They all come through for corporate events. Like we're got quite a proven and true operation, and we're really happy to be a part of the San Diego business community, and we're really fighting hard to stay a part of that community right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge battle, I think, for all of us as entrepreneurs. And I'm sure that you've had your share of cancellations and stuff like that. Along with the elopement giveaway, has there been some other ways that you guys have like found ways to connect with planners or your clients, or kind of just reach out and make sure you stay connected during this time?
The industry as a whole, and I think everybody who's watching this industry related would know, I feel like everyone's been really supportive and kind of just open ears and open to ideas. And so we, with our clients, have reached out personally and are talking to all of them and trying to check in on them, make sure everybody's good. And then also just with like our other people, our business relationships, I think everybody's just really doing a good job of kind of connecting, checking in. Like I went through and just started calling all the other venues in Mission Beach just to kind of say, hey, how are things going? What are you guys doing? What should we be doing? Just want to make sure you're okay. I think a lot of it's just everybody kind of taking pulses, checking on each other, and then trying to find creative ways to help one another while the industry gets hit by this tornado. But in terms of the clients, I think the main thing is communication, just like any relationship that you have with anybody. Like you need communication. It's the key to having a successful relationship.
Great marriage advice for all of your all these potential engagement clients. Key to marriage. Well, and I think one thing that you mentioned that I thought was just going to be something when we talked offline before, we were just talking about like the nature of what's happening right now and how that's going to affect, us in a couple months down the road. And what I think you brought up, and I think it's a good point, is that like venues for planners or clients, multiple venues need to be on their radar, because as you're going to reschedule, you might not get that Friday that you had in May, and you need to just transition it to a Friday in October and November if restrictions are lessened by that point. I mean, I think we're still in a little bit of unknowns in terms of guest size, but being nimble or knowing which venues out there, because you're going to have to kind of cast a wide net and have some different options on the table. So I think making these close connections or being in touch with different venue operators is going to be key, I think, from a planning perspective, because you're going to have to come to the table with some solutions, and like with ABCD, not you might not get your first, second choice, or it just might need to be reimagined. And I think because we're so blessed to have great weather in San Diego, and you have indoor, outdoor, I think just need to kind of think outside the box for some of these things.
Yeah. And for us specifically, we're really well positioned in terms of a post-COVID event, just based on how we designed the space in the first place. With high ceilings, we've got tons of natural airflow, natural light, natural raw wood furniture, and we have digital signage. Not a lot of things you really have to touch or do. There's a lot of space. There's ability to go outside. Since we have all the spaces next to each other, and we have the lawns, we have the garden, we've got tower, you can really expand as far as you want, or you can bring it in. Even our conference room, the walls can fold away if you don't want to have people confined in that space. Yeah. So that is one thing that is to our benefit, is that we're also great for like smaller size events, 50, 100, things like that. So whenever we do start meeting again, we are well positioned to do that, which I look forward to.
No, and that's a great thing to mention too about guest size, and that you guys can maybe adapt to small, intimate, and even if something grows too, because that might be a consideration as well.
Absolutely. And the way we're designed is we have a modular floor plan. So we have rolling tables that you move around, so it can still look really beautiful, yet we can set them up in a way that is cohesive for what you're trying to accomplish with that event, whether that be you need more distance, or I don't foresee anybody, packing rooms anytime soon. So I think there will be some modified floor plans going on, and we're already set up for all that. So we don't really have to make any changes. We already clean everything before and after every event. So there's not a whole lot of changes that we have to make. We might change some of our food options to add some more like box lunches opposed to buffets and things like that, just to make sure everybody's really keeping their hands to themselves and their things.
This is my dance space. That's your dance space.
This is my lunch.
My dirty dancing reference.
We also do a lot of cooking live on site. Even just like the typical taco. We have a great taco vendor, and their cooking food hot on site is something we probably want to do, because it's going to kill all any germs right then and there on the food, opposed to having like maybe salads and things like that.
Yeah. I think the food and beverage stuff, we had Continental Catering join us last week, and we're gonna talk with Giuseppe's Catering next week, next Friday. And I think all of them are really trying to adapt like in the moment right now, and really they're kind of ingrained in how they're servicing clients or grab and go stuff, or even a lot of them are servicing the health communities and senior living communities. But I think you bring up a good point, and something we've all been talking about is that food and beverage service is definitely going to change, at least for the next year or so. Not only for like what health standards are going to be, I think those will be adjusted, but also just like guest perception too. Like you're going to have to not over exaggerate, but just like assure everyone that like it is safe, and that like the precautions are being taken.
Absolutely. Just like we said, like the floor plans, like spacing out the tables, spacing out the meals, or even dropping them on people's tables for them. And Continental and Giuseppe's are both great vendors we've worked with, and they're very innovative. So I'm sure they'll come up with some great stuff.
Yeah.
So that is one of the nice things about us having open vendor policies, that we do get to interact with a lot of the different organizations in San Diego.
I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, they are great. I love your space. And so for people that haven't been there, maybe I was thinking you might be able to paint a picture of like an event that you've hosted that like has been one of your favorites. I know I went to one where there was like a really fun team building where people were like jumping on things out in the yard, and like you have a huge grass area. I've pitched a client on wanting to do like bubble soccer in the field across the street, and then do a taco party. I think your venue is spectacular in so many different facets, but maybe you can speak to like an event that you guys have hosted that has been really fun, interactive, and there's been a lot of great activities that that might be enticing to people, to give them like a visual of the space too.
Sure. Let me give you a brief overview of the layout, and then I can kind of tell you about some fun things that have happened.
Yeah.
So more or less, we're on a 14,000 square foot complex, which is a sports center at its heart, which has all the boats and paddleboards and stuff. So that's a mission-based sports center. And then we have two venues on property. There's the Point, which is the Bay Room and the Garden, and then there's the Tower Beach Club, which is an indoor and outdoor with the deck. And then there's two lawns. There's an east lawn and a west lawn that both sit on Mission Bay. And then there's a parking lot with 90 spaces. And then across the parking lot is a large softball field with views also overlooking the bay.
Yeah, where I envision my bubble soccer, which I didn't get to do yet, but I still want to do sometime, because I think it would be hilarious to watch corporate executives run around and knock each other over.
This is the perfect time for bubble soccer, because people are in my bubble. Don't come. You can't don't get in my bubble. Like,
don't come in my bubble.
You could be really killing it soon. So, for example, in terms of the lawn that you're referring to, we did a Hyundai picnic out there, and we did barbecue, fresh, like huge, slow cooked barbecue tables, and then we had across the way on the bay. We also did a series of lawn games on that lawn.
Okay.
And then across the basically adjacently on the water, on the sand, we just had beach chairs and tables and tons of paddle boards, kayaks, pedal boats, you name it. So that's just like a fun thing to be able to do so the company picnics, I think, we really knock it out of the park in that department, just because we have all this stuff. Plus we'll coordinate everything. We'll bring in the vendors for the corporate people, or we'll have, let the planners do it if they have a planner. And then it's just a really great experience. Now we've started we did Guthrie's and Sons is a air conditioning heating company that we actually have are repeat customers of ours. They did something on the tower deck, a different picnic, and we had, jet skis and pontoon boat rides, and then they had like a band, and everyone was out dancing. And so we usually they had tacos, open bar. That's just like an easy example. I really like in the Bay Room from the corporate side when people really utilize having a very productive meeting, but then also understanding that they can go out and do something active before they come back, and then maybe have some drinks. I find a lot of people feel like it's really needed to be like, we're just working or we're just playing. And I think the way you're most successful is actually when you do both.
I mean, I'm definitely more motivated to learn knowing there's maybe a margarita at the end of the finish line.
Yes. Our pontoon boat scavenger hunts are really popular. We throw those into a lot of events where the group gets split up into different pontoon boats and goes out onto Mission Bay with a list of, they do a video scavenger hunt, and they have to collect all different historical and scientific facts and make reports. And then we watch them all at the end. Those are just like a couple examples. I also, in terms of like favorite events, my wedding obviously is one of my favorite events. I also have done our baby shower, our baby's first birthday party, all at our venue because it's a great spot to get a lot of people together and have a good party, and you can kind of be creative.
Yeah.
The bouncy balls that you were referring to, that's horse races. That was something that we did for one of my birthday parties a long time ago, and then we recreate it for corporate events, where more or less there's oversized bouncy balls, and then there's heats and there's races, and people compete against each other. You can gamble legally with tickets, and have a whole like betting aspect to the whole thing, and it's pretty hilarious and competitive.
No, that was what was so hilarious about it. I think you guys were like hosting a showcase for planners or something I came to, and people got really into it. And I mean, it was awkward in the sense that like you're an adult like trying to bounce and race like on a ball. So it was hilarious and entertaining, but I'm sure, and it looked like a lot of fun for those participating, you know.
And for sure. It looks. Yeah, you won't typically see, like, there's a lot of amazing team building companies in San Diego, and we work with some of them, and they come, and we really, I always love seeing what they put together. We also create a lot of our own, and our goal is usually to have whatever those people don't have. Like, we're not going to typically do what you're going to find. We're not going to assemble a bike, even though we're a great spot to assemble a bike. We're just going to do something out of the box, so people are like, oh, I haven't done this one. That's typically how we like people to feel like when they walk into our space. People are usually like, oh, this is cool. I wasn't expecting to have a meeting here. This is really nice. And they're like instantly like relaxed and like excited. That's kind of, and we try and transcend that into like all of our experiences as well. I
love it. You had mentioned like some of the vendors that you guys work with, and I usually like to take the end of like this interview to take opportunity to do some shout outs to other vendors, because I think something we touched on before is that the way that we're all kind of surviving through this or getting through this is like the collaboration and the community that we have together. Whether it's other planners, I'm trying to connect with them, like planner to planner, venue to venue that you were mentioning, like even in your neighborhood too. Like that's the best way to kind of manage our way through this. Are there some vendors or venues and stuff that you want to give a shout out to that I can link to or kind of just put on other people's radar? Because I'd love to make mention of them.
Sure. Well, DJ San Diego is basically like our brother. He just shows up at the office uninvited all the time and sits down, pulls out his computer. So,
I think I heard his name like 2 weeks ago. I need to meet this guy. Is that his real name, or you just call him DJ San Diego?
That's his brand. He's Samuel White.
Okay.
He's probably watching right now, I'm sure.
And I need to meet this guy.
You should meet him. He's charming. He's great blue eyes, and he's very easy to work with and creative. So he does things more than just DJs, but that's his main platform. Okay. He's great. I definitely recommend him to anybody, unless you're going to start, he actually has enough DJs that he can, if he's not available, he has other guys. So he's our preferred DJ, and we really always enjoy working with him. I will say my favorite service that I don't know if people use in other venues or not is our San Diego propane guy. Oh. I also recommend him for your home.
Okay. Who doesn't need a good propane guy? Yeah. I don't even know a propane guy. So yeah.
The guy will like show up at my house when I'm not home and just go replace the propane in my grill and in my fire pit, and then just charge it to my credit card, and it costs the same as me going to take the tank in. It's the same price.
Oh my God, that's amazing. What's this guy's name?
It's the San Diego propane guy.
Cleverly named.
Very, yeah. And also, in relevance to our venue, he provides us our mushroom heaters for events. Oh, okay. And then we also have a lot of fire pits on site for events, and so he makes sure that those are full before events. I would say for events, obviously you can get other ones. He's just pretty easy to work with and very reasonably priced. And in terms of the home too, that it's like there's never put a propane tank in your car again. That's no reason to.
Yeah, I'm not. So I'm trying to go do that. So that's amazing.
Yes. and then that's it. So those I would say are two of them. I also really like our cleaning company, Mopping Duck. It's another small woman-owned business. Natalie, she's very thorough, enthusiastic, and she's great to work with as well. She's awesome. So these are like kind of like not your typical vendors, I think people recommend, but I think these are like the people who kind of like are our bloodline to like help us make our lives easier, like on a operational level, which because
I love it. I mean, I think that we are finding strength in the support that we have. And it doesn't have to be like who's our favorite rental company or where we get some of the known things too, because these are all small business owners as well. And I think they deserve all the love and support that we can offer too.
Absolutely. So these are all very small, very one-man, woman operations. I also will give a quick shout out to Fab Trailers, Photo Trailer. And I can
we have a question here. So we have someone who just asked, how do you find the perfect vendors to partner with? I think this might be directed at you, Casey.
Sure. I mean, let's start off with nobody's perfect, including myself. But
how many years have you been in the business?
How long have I?
Yeah, like a long time, right?
Forever. I've been hosting parties since I was in high school, basically.
Me too.
But the key is to find a vendor who's meets your expectations in terms of price, deliverables, and quality of product. I think would be the key there. So do your research, get multiple quotes, make sure you find out like what their price is with any add-ons, specifically if you're doing a food vendor. Like you really want to know like out the door pricing, never just ballpark. Like if it asks for an actual quote and then see it at the end what that number is and divide it by how many people are coming, and that's your price per person. If they have obviously references, but these are all stuff you can obviously, people always say like get the references, but you usually get a good vibe by just how they say. You want somebody who's really willing to like step up and help. Like if something goes wrong, you want that vendor that's going to be like just handle it and not be like, no, this is where my service ends. They're just going to take that trash out or whatever they're going to do. Like from a venue standpoint, like I want vendors that will help me move a chair if I need to move a chair. From a event standpoint, like if I was hosting an event, I care about like beyond the price. I want to know that we're getting like the experience that's going to be provided to our client is going to, or to our guests is going to be meet all their needs. Like they're going to not be like, oh, I didn't have this piece. I needed to feel like I have everything. Like whether it be like I needed a napkin or I needed in my photo booth, I needed more light, whatever it is. Like you want to make sure that whoever you pick is going to provide all the things needed for your guests to feel the most accommodated, where they're not asking, they're just enjoying the experience and not missing anything, if that makes sense.
I couldn't agree with you like more, because it kind of goes back to what I feel like are like principles of service. And years of fine dining, just carrying that through, that like you wouldn't just say like, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go get you a fork. You're not in my section,
Right.
Someone asks for a fork from whoever, you go do it and say, of course, and I do like to have the same thing from the vendors I work with, that you just kind of try to plan for everything. And then there's going to be things that pop up on event day, and trying to be like solution oriented and driven, and not like, well, it's all messed up. Like I, can't fix it. It wasn't part of the contract. So.
Right. And being able to change things. If something's not in their contract, but they need something really bad, figure out a way for them to get it. You know what I mean? Like, So in turn, it's hard because there's a lot of options out there. And also I would say in terms of vendors, don't be afraid to give people a chance. a lot of people are like, oh, they won't necessarily, they'll be scared to try these smaller, newer companies. Yeah. I find the smaller and newer companies are going to work twice as hard to make sure you have the best experience and everything's awesome than somebody that's been doing this forever and it's just another event and whatever. So I really encourage you to like give people a shot and let them prove themselves, and they'll usually rise to the occasion.
I agree too. That was a great question, Ashley. Thank you for posing that. And good luck with your Curvy Boss events. I love the name.
Curvy Boss.
She commented that she started her own event planning business. Curly, not curvy, curly. I can't read.
Those are good. Curves and curls.
Yeah, you know what? Sorry about that. Maybe I need to start Curvy Boss. I already have a couple businesses at this point, so I think I'll just stick with what I've got going on. But no, I love the shout out for vendors, and I think also too, I've implored like vendors for a number of things that I can just rely on and that I work with all the time. And not to say that I'm not apt to like go with new ones, but it is nice to kind of have that relationship, and so you can communicate back and forth, or maybe they can work out a better deal because you can give them a couple more things or something like that, or just like have some history, you know, just your expectation. Sometimes you're like, hey, this is what I expect from my clients, and like just making sure that that person's going to execute it, and that you're not always having to keep communicating over and over, because sometimes that needs to be in play with you know, bar services or food vendors or whatever, and just understanding that their standards are just as high as yours, because it's gonna be a reflection of you as a planner to that client.
I completely agree. Using people more, like having that relationship with a vendor where you use them over and over, just makes your life so much easier, because they kind of know, especially for me as a venue, they know my space and they know what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is why we have ones that we recommend for sure. But some of those ones were new when they started. Now they're very established.
That's great.
I would say, yes, having people who know like your space and know what's going on is so helpful.
Yeah.
Because otherwise our coordinators are having to be like, explain it, and people who are going to treat things well and clean up after themselves, and you know, all the fun things you want them to do.
All the things we can't wait to get back to doing. Yeah. I mean, I can't wait to actually get back to. You were mentioning being picked up on a boat and taken to an event, and I just got like earlier we were talking about your wedding. I'm like, oh my god, that sounds so fun! Like I can't wait to go out on a boat.
I will happily take you out on a boat.
Thank you.
We can do a live video from the boat.
Ashley has one more question. She was saying, do you have a recommendation for event day insurance companies? I don't know who you guys use. I've used Hiscox in the past for my day of event insurance, although I was starting to look into some other alternatives, because I found that there was some discrepancies for planners that weren't they're having some challenges as it was relating to cover, like when there was something that happened that didn't go right. So I guess don't go with my recommendation, because I'm on the lookout now.
I can't speak to that, because of my being a venue. We have different insurance that we're working with, but we don't have a specific day of one that we recommend to people.
Yeah.
Well,
actually,
a lot of interesting new online quotes you can get, which allows you to be really competitive, though, which is nice.
Yeah, I've just had some colleagues who have mentioned some challenges with the alternative. I had them for a couple of years. I haven't had any issue to need the insurance, but if I do, and I'm paying for such a substantial policy, I don't want to have any problems, like God forbid. So anyhow, and
there might be some interesting repercussions to put on people's radar in terms of insurance post-COVID. in terms of, whether their insurances will allow them to be hosting events.
Yeah.
Things like that could come into play, which could require different, like, additional insurance policies to make sure that the events are covered for those corporations.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to get back to planning events and going on boat rides. And
we are planning them now. We can keep planning them. We just can't do them.
I know.
So don't be shy to plan. Give us a call. We're happy to plan your company picnic, your holiday party, whatever you want to do now, and then we'll see what happens if you get to do it. But you can have it ready to go and have your date secure now. I think a lot of venues are being a lot more flex on their cancellation policies and are letting people plan things and then see what happens.
Yeah, I found the same thing, because I've had clients that are have like fall events, and they're getting a little nervous because they're large scale events and trying to push that out. And so yeah, we are finding venues just being extraordinarily flexible in their cancellation policies or their rescheduling policies without any fees. So that's completely generous. I know this is challenging, to just keep moving the needle as a business owner or as a venue. So that's difficult, but
I think people definitely prefer you postpone than cancel, because then at least the business will be there opposed to disappearing. Yeah,
exactly. Well, thank you, Casey, for your time joining us today. It was so fun chatting with you. I'm excited to see you in person sometime soon. I didn't realize when we saw you at the RFP event that was going to be the last party I've ever attended.
Well, I was happy I ran into you there. And yeah, I know. Well, maybe we'd be happy to host an event when things are back, and so we'd love to have you.
I'm looking forward to that. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Happy Friday, or day whatever it is for everybody, if you're paying attention. All right. Have a good weekend.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.